It's hard to imagine today, but there was once a major newspaper that encouraged school-aged children to write an essay that glorified the Ku Klux Klan. But how did it happen? Most people today view the Ku Klux Klan very negatively due to its history of violence, racism, and its promotion of white supremacist ideology. The group is widely condemned for its acts of terrorism, including lynchings, bombings, and intimidation tactics aimed primarily at African Americans. Today, the Klan is classified as a hate group by organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League. Public opinion polls and societal trends indicate that the overwhelming majority of Americans reject the Klan's beliefs and actions, considering them incompatible with modern values of equality, justice, and diversity. But this wasn't always the case. There were times in our history where the Klan was seen as a positive institution and was even held up as an example of virtue and manliness to our children. The original Klan was formed in the aftermath of the Civil War. It had largely dissolved by 1871 after federal crackdowns through the Federal Enforcement Acts. These federal acts were countered by a series of state laws, unofficially known as Jim Crow, which legally enforced racial segregation and disenfranchised blacks in the South. By the early 1900s, many people in the South remembered the original Klan as a necessary evil of Reconstruction, mythologizing it as a group that resisted Northern oppression and protected Southern culture. The early 20th century was a time when the lost cause ideology flourished, promoting a romanticized view of the Confederacy and downplaying the brutality of slavery and the Klan's violence. This romanticization was enhanced in 1905 when Thomas Dixon released his book, The Clansman. The book later inspired the film, The Birth of a Nation, which painted the Klan in a heroic light and influenced public perception among many white Americans. However, that was still 10 years away. In the interim, Dixon adapted his book into a play which took the nation by storm. Renamed The Clansman, a historical romance of the Ku Klux Klan, it was first performed in 1905 and became one of the most controversial and influential works of its time. The play depicted the Reconstruction era in the American South and glorified the Ku Klux Klan as saviors of white society. Its themes and narrative promoted white supremacy and perpetuated racist stereotypes, particularly against blacks. As in the book, the Klan is portrayed as heroic, rising to defend white Southerners against what he described as the chaos and immorality brought on by Reconstruction policies. The play's glorification of the violence of the Klan perpetuated the myth that they were a necessary force to protect a threatened white society. The play had a high production value and a stellar cast made up of the top actors of the day. It boasted having 75 people on the stage at one time. It sparked immediate criticism from civil rights groups for its blatant racism, but this was quickly drowned out by its robust reception from white critics and white audiences in the South. When the play made its way to Texas, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the largest newspaper in the area, made a very big deal about it. The play was mentioned somewhere in the paper every day leading up to it. It also started a contest for children on the day after Christmas. The newspaper was being run by Louis J. Wortham, a prominent Texas newspaperman, author, and politician. He also represented Tarrant County in the Texas House of Representatives from 1909 to 1915. Wortham considered himself a historian, later to write his 5-volume work, History of Texas from Wilderness to Commonwealth, published in 1924. In this work, Wortham demonstrates his knowledge of the Civil War and its aftermath, noting that the Southern states lost all for which they contended, leading to the total destruction of their economic system. Children were instructed to send an essay directly to the newspaper in a letter about the Klan and its legacy. Each letter was to bear the child's name, address, and the name of the school attended, together with that of their school teacher. All contestants had to be under 14 years of age. The essays could not exceed 150 words in length and must be written on one side of the paper only. The contest closed Thursday, January 1st at noon. All Fort Worth school pupils were allowed to enter this contest. The first prize consisted of 6 box seats for the performance of the Clansman the next day, Saturday afternoon. Over 200 essays were submitted from students aged 8 to 14. The paper printed about 40 of these entries. The contest judges were 2 English teachers and a school principal. It was important to the paper that this be seen as an academic venture.
Northern office holders after the war said that Negroes could vote, but the Southerners who fought against them could not vote. So that put nearly all the Southern men out. Nearly all the offices were filled with Northern people. The Negroes were getting control of the whites. The Southerners then began to get up courage and formed a society called the Ku Klux Klan. They met in hideous dens and were dressed in white robes and white caps. They told the Negroes that if they did not quit voting and helping in politics, they would all be destroyed by the ghosts from dead Confederates. They even went as far as to murder some, and others they would whip. But finally they regained control of the government. Carolyn Cantwell, grade 5th, age 10.
The real origin of the Ku Klux Klan is yet a mystery. We needed just such an organized body of true and tried Southern men to protect our womanhood of the South, as well as to rid the states from the infamies of a Negro government. Backed by carpetbaggers. Harry Price, Station A School, Fort Worth, Texas, age 13.
The Ku Klux Klan was nothing more nor less than a vigilance committee composed of some of the best citizens of the South sworn to protect the virtue, honor, and integrity of the women of the lost cause against the brutal instincts and passions of a race recently liberated and enfranchised, if necessary at a sacrifice of their own lives. But just after the close of the war, the South was overrun with carpetbaggers and scalawags, composed mostly of the lowest type of Northern society, who poisoned the minds of the Negroes against the South and led them believe they were equal with the whites, which time has proven to the contrary. Grace Marie Hanson, St. Ignatius Academy. My teacher is Sister Ferdinand. P.S. My grandfather, Mr. C.H. Hanson, who is still living, was a member of that famous Klan in Port Lavaca, Texas, and he gave me the incidents from which I have written the story. My age is 10 years and I am in the 5th grade.
One of the winners of the essay contest, not surprisingly, was the grandson of an original Klansman, with an essay that was less than inspiring, even by his own admission. The message was very clear. Even in the eyes of children, black people were seen as inferior and problematic, while the Ku Klux Klan were seen as heroes. Schools in Fort Worth were segregated at this time. The play met with an enthusiastic response. The play's author, Thomas Dixon, was in attendance for the first showing in Fort Worth, and was met with what the paper called unstinted applause, meaning the applause was enthusiastic, generous, and wholehearted. The paper gushed in its editorial about the play, stating, "The most sweetly inspiring subject in the Clansman is the phase when Southern aristocracy embraced its types of girlish beauty and its brave men. The play is highly exciting at times and strongly dramatic." The play sold out every night it ran in Fort Worth. From there, it went on to Wichita Falls, Texas, where it sold out a brand new theater for 3 nights. Thomas Dixon Jr.'s follow-up novel in his Reconstruction trilogy, The Traitor, vied with The Clansman in popularity among the reading public and was also a tremendous seller. A play was quickly adapted from this novel and was shown at the Byers Opera House 1 month later. It also received rave reviews from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. The play's success set the stage for the movie The Birth of a Nation, for which the paper held another essay contest. As one of the first feature-length films, with a running time of over 3 hours, an astonishing length for the time, it became highly influential. The revival of the Klan soon followed in 1915, leveraging the groundwork of white supremacist attitudes and historical revisionism established by the Clansman. The essays demonstrated that white supremacist attitudes were firmly entrenched in Fort Worth and were being passed along to the children. The Fort Worth chapter of the Klan, known as Clavern 101, was formally chartered in 1921. It was founded that summer on the banks of the Trinity River by then Sheriff Sterling Clark and County Judge Hugh Small. By 1921, national membership had reached more than 500,000. The Fort Worth Klan quickly played a prominent role in local politics, business, and social life, holding large public events, including parades and rallies. Within months, Fort Worth's Clavern came to dominate local society, law enforcement, and politics. Its meeting hall on Main Street, known as Clansman Hall, was built to be one of the grandest Klan structures in the nation and still stands today. It is being turned into a museum. Today, the Klansman is recognized as a deeply racist piece of propaganda and is studied in schools as an example of how literature and art can poison societal attitudes and reinforce negative stereotypes. But in 1908, it was considered patriotism personified, especially by the media and by many Fort Worth educators. The children who wrote these essays were of a prime age to be recruited into the Klan as young adults when the Fort Worth chapter was chartered. There is no way to know which of these children joined the Klan, since the Invisible Empire kept its roles a secret, but it's not a stretch to say it was likely a significant number of them. The young minds that the educators were entrusted to develop were set upon a non-stop journey toward a life of hate and destruction, starting with that little essay contest in 1908.